So recently I found out about the concept of central bank digital currencies, or in other words, CBDCs. Apart from a few videos here and there, the topic seems to be non-existent. This really boggled my mind because the whole concept itself is going to change the way we interact with money up to the point where I would call it revolutionary. Unlike any other money we've ever had before, this money is programmable. It's somewhere on the same level of when humans decided that carrying around gold in their pockets isn't really that convenient. But I think this change is not going to be for the greater good. If you've questioned the imbalance of our current financial system, well, I think you're in for quite a shock with this one. The sanctions on Russia, as an example, has cut off every single citizen's access to basic financial services like Visa, MasterCard, Apple Pay, and basically everything. Whether the sanctions are right or wrong is completely besides the point. The issue here is the imbalance of power between government and citizens to prevent these basic human rights. So let me ask you, if any of this concerns you, why have you not heard of these central bank digital currencies? Why is it not everywhere? Let me explain what they are and what it means for the future of our financial payment systems. Hello, my name is Vadim. Let's get into it. Let's first try and explain how our current financial centralized system works. It's quite simple really, and it starts with you and I. So if we're transferring money between two people or two companies, we already have three entities taking part in this transaction. We have the central bank, which is basically the government. We have a commercial bank, and then we have some sort of financial service assisting the transaction, which is typically something like Visa or MasterCard or any other financial payment system. That is 3 times that somebody's taking and holding custody of your money. Now that is a lot of power to have. So let me introduce you to these CBDCs. I feel like I'm talking about a really dodgy drug, but trust me, I think this is a lot worse. What CBDCs essentially do is they cut out these middlemen from all of the transactions. So now our money simply flows through the 2 central banks, or in other words, the 2 government entities. I mean, that sounds really efficient and great from their perspective, but for the average Joe like you and I, it most certainly isn't. In fact, it's just completely terrible. Let me explain why. Now, hypothetically, we're going to have a wallet or an account directly with the central bank or the government. So now we have placed all the power in regards to money into the hands of our government. So why is this so scary? I mean, they're good guys after all, right? Well, you see, the government has a monopoly on the money it creates and the money it destroys. Actually, it can do this already, and this is exactly what happened in the COVID crash. And it's also the exact reasons why basic food prices, basic prices of everything is skyrocketing at the moment. But these CBDCs will make all of that stuff even simpler. The money will be programmable. And I know that kind of sounds science fiction-y, but it simply means that the government will be able to put digital rules in place that will restrict certain things that they may or may not want us to do. Let's travel to China, where the government is already using a digital yen since last month, and is already talking about the idea of money expiration. Yes, money expiration dates. Imagine a time of economic hardship, maybe like last year when COVID happened, and the government doesn't necessarily want you to save your money. They want you to spend, spend, and spend. When we spend, this stimulates the economy and it makes money flow around. Well, what if the government could force you to spend money? With the CBDC, the government could simply force your money to expire with a certain time limit for you to spend it before it becomes completely worthless. And this idea isn't completely hypothetical. China already has a digital yen currency, and it's talking about this idea of money expiration. Now, China is already a leader in digital surveillance. It has a social credit scoring system that prevents citizens from misbehaving, and it can even implement measures like preventing citizens to travel on train and even airplanes. But what if they could decide what you spend your money on? With a CBDC, that's possible. For example, we soon might have personal carbon emission quotas. Now with a CBDC, a government could simply program your money so you don't spend over a certain amount of products that release a certain amount of carbon emissions. Yikes. While I would love to say that this isn't coming to the West within our lifetimes, I'm afraid this really isn't the case. Over 80 countries are experimenting with CBDCs, and some have already published their findings, like the UK. I'm sure when eventually we'll hear the governments talk about CBDCs, it'll sound like the best thing ever, like you're playing Mario Kart on Rainbow Road and life is good. Now let's have a look at some of these ironic little benefits that they mention. This is directly from the UK website publishing their findings on CBDCs. Well, one of the benefits apparently is avoiding the risks of new forms of private money creation, being Bitcoin. Wow. They actually blatantly point out that the money is going to be programmable, and they also say it's decentralized. Now I find the decentralized part a little bit funny because if you scroll up a page, you will see that the very top little pyramid on this little flow chart from how the money flows is the central bank core ledger. So I'm not sure how that is decentralized. That is quite the opposite. Now something like Bitcoin and Ethereum are truly decentralized because there's no one entity that makes sure all these transactions go through, but rather it depends on the whole collective system. Basically, there's not one person in charge. And one thing I am sure of is that these CBDCs will not have a finite amount of currency, which is the whole idea of crypto in general, that there will be a finite amount of, say, Bitcoin. So what can we do as average Joes? One extreme option when these CBDCs eventually come around is to resist using this currency at all costs. This might mean using existing solutions like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, or more traditional forms of payment like gold maybe, I'm not sure. Alongside that, I think you should go ahead and try your best to own some physical assets, as I think in the future this will become more and more limited. This might include things like property, or owning physical gold, or owning physical Bitcoin on a little wallet. So I hope this brings some awareness of our future. What these CBDCs might bring is not necessarily positive for any of us. Share this around, tell everyone about it. I cannot stress enough how much of an issue this is going to be in the future, as it's just going to hand way too much power over to a central entity like our government. Thank you for listening, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.